Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Sophie and today I'm going to be sharing my September plan with me in my bullet journal. So before I get into my September theme, I want to do a quick flip through of my August spreads. My August theme was jellyfish, and if you didn't see it, I will link the plan with me when I set up this month in the description box below. I really like this setup, but I am excited to move on to another theme. So in this setup, I'm actually going to be doing something a little different, and I'm going to be starting with some art on a separate piece of paper. The main stationery item that I'm going to be using for this entire setup is this brown Stabilo. I'm going to be outlining all of my pictures and most of my boxes in this color because I want to make sure that the setup is mostly brown and not black. This pen, along with all other supplies, will be listed down below, so don't forget to check out the description box if you'd like to purchase a specific item. So I'm going to be starting out by drawing out and tracing over this picture of a fairy that I've already drawn. I'm sorry the pencil is so dark, but I am not very great at anatomy, and so I really wanted to give myself a good reference for the video. As you can see, it's a little pixie, and I had her leaning on a mushroom because, as you can probably tell by the cover page, my theme is going to be mushrooms this month. This was a pretty simple sketch. There wasn't much shading in it. I just wanted to make sure that the outlines were there, and then later I can add shading with the marker. So unlike last month, I didn't use any line shading in this picture. So halfway through the drawing, I wanted to make sure I had my September title, so I'm using a green Tombow brush pen and using some really heavy calligraphy and just writing September at the bottom of this picture. This particular picture is going to be on my cover page, so I wanted to make sure it was very bold and you could see it over the picture. So last month I really got into ombre calligraphy and it was really fun to try something new. I really wanted to carry along something very similar to this month, but I did not want to do the outlining or the ombre, so instead I'm taking a slightly darker color and I'm using the skinny side of the Tombow to add a small drop shadow behind all of the letters. I think the style of lettering is a little easier than last month, which will be nice because it will take less time to set up each spread, but I also really love the way it looks, and it was just something really nice to add to this so far brown picture. Especially on the ground, you can kind of see where my lines for grass are very sketchy and not very definite, and that's because I did not want to outline every single blade of grass or every single piece of hair, for example. I just wanted to give kind of an outline or a base of what the picture was going to look like. Then I decided I really wanted to add something like butterflies to this picture, so similarly to her wings, which are supposed to be kind of similar to a butterfly, I just drew little butterflies around her. Now I move on to these little boxes, which will also be used later in the setup. I'm just drawing little mushrooms with grass and butterflies in pretty much the same style. The last thing I'm doing is something different from last month, and as you'll see later in this setup, I wanted to put all of my titles on a different piece of paper, that way I could cut them out and make a cool effect. So right now I'm just writing all of the titles for my spreads in the same cursive calligraphy font and then doing the same drop shadows as I did for the title. I did lose some footage there of me writing out the rest of the words, but it's the same calligraphy as the stuff I've already written, so it's pretty obvious what I was doing. Cutting out all of my pictures, and I have a simple outline around them so I know what size I'm going to need to use them later. And then around my different titles, I'm doing similarly to what I did in my DIY sticker video and cutting directly around each of the words so they have their own little outline. Although tedious, I really love the effect this gives, and it's really going to help later having these already pre-made and cut. So with that done, now it's time to actually get into the setup. And most of the cover page is already done, and so all I have to do is glue it in. I actually prefer a casual glue stick to glue tape just because I feel like it goes on a lot easier, though there is a little bump by her foot, as you can see I was trying to rub out, which is a little annoying, but we just got over it. So now I'm going to be using marker shading. Now last month I did some marker shading, but I really wanted to make sure the jellyfish were light and airy, and so it was very minimal and only on the shadowy parts. However, this month I'm using a lot more saturated colors, and so I am going to be going in with the direct marker and coloring in almost the entire picture. Most of the supplies that I'm using in this video are Tombow brush pens, not only for the calligraphy but also for the coloring. However, I did use a few Crayola Super Tips, especially for her skin tone because I did not have Tombow in the right color. The technique I'm using right now was actually inspired by Journal Way, also on YouTube, and it's using a Tombow blender, or just a clear colored brush pen, and transferring the color onto that pen instead of directly onto the paper. Then I'm using that pen to color the picture, which creates a lot lighter saturation of color and helps me blend a lot easier, especially on her skin where there's a lot more highlights. Using water can also help blend these markers, especially since they are water-based, but I did not want to put water directly in my notebook, so I just decided against that one. Now the colors on this front page I wanted to keep consistent with the rest of the theme, and although you can't really tell now, most of the colors in the theme are going to be green, a mustard yellow, and then a muted red. So as you can see, I'm trying to color this picture in those colors even if it's not the most realistic of drawings. My picture did not come out perfect, like I'm still a little unhappy with her arm resting on the mushroom, and then a few parts of her face. But all in all, it was a really fun and therapeutic thing to color, so I do recommend giving it a try. Like I said previously, I am adding marker shading, so in the curves of her dress and the wrinkles at the bottom, and then also along the mushroom where the little divots come into the top of the mushroom. Lastly, I used two different shades of green to color the grass because I did want to show some dimension. And once the picture is all colored, I did similarly to last month a border around the entire cover, although this time the box is rounded. And after that, it's time to move on to the next page. So this month school is back in session for me, and that means a really busy schedule. I have been trying to make my calendars smaller and even on half pages all through quarantine since I did not have much going on. But I've decided to try a really big calendar this month, and hopefully it will let me have more space to plan out everything I need to do. So I'm starting by drawing this brown box, and it covers the entire 2 pages, but still has a little bit of space at the bottom for a little doodle. I made sure that everything was using this brown Stabilo like I said, and I also made sure the boxes were rounded to give them a less harsh feel. The font I used at the top to write Monday through Saturday was a typewriter font. I really wanted to use my stamps, but that would take a long time and I do not have a brown stamp pad, so I ended up just using my own pen, and it actually gave it a really nice look in my own handwriting. A common trick though is just to write almost all lowercase and then just add serifs to all the letters, and it will look automatically like stamps. Then in the bottom left corner, I doodled a little stack, I guess, of mushrooms. It is not a very realistic drawing just because mushrooms don't stack on top of each other like this, but I thought it was a super cute thing to add to the side of the page, and it really is a great way to make use of the space since there's not much space to write anything. So with my sketch done, now I want to move on to the bottom part of this picture, which is going to include layering. This is the part where I'm talking about why I wanted to write all of my titles first. So I've seen a lot of pictures on Pinterest of layering in bullet journals, and I know I really wanted to try it this month, so I bought this pad of paper that had the perfect colors for my theme, and I decided to use it in this setup. I'm just tearing off little pieces of paper in red and yellow and gluing them to the bottom of the page, and then I'm going to cut around them later. Then I'm gluing my September on top, and it really gives a nice effect along with a nice border around the green words. Then I started to add color to my picture on the left, so just like the cover, I'm just using a tan marker to do the stems of the mushrooms, and then I'm using my green marker in a very streaky form just to form the little blades of grass that I didn't completely outline with my brown pen. Then I'm using a yellow and red to color in the tops of the mushrooms, and adding a little marker shading with a slightly darker color to make it seem like there's more depth in the mushrooms. Now, if you guys saw my July bullet journal setup, you know that my drop shadows did not really work for me, but I really thought that this page needed something, and so adding the drop shadows to this calendar really made it pop. Lastly, I added some white gel pen and streaks on top of the lettering. Instead of just adding highlights, I went over the entire letter and the downstrokes and made it look almost like it was faux calligraphy. And this type of lettering also gave me the feel of doing something different while not being too hard. Now with that done, let's move on to the next page, which is going to be my brain dump page. And of course I had to cut off that little piece of paper sticking off the end. And then afterwards, I'm going to start by doodling my little mushrooms in the bottom right corners. Now I'm going to bring back my layering, and I'm just trying to use bigger sheets of paper, that way I can kind of gauge what sizes I want them to be before I go and tear them out. It's not a very calculated process, I just want to make sure that there's a difference in color and that it could cover the corner of the pages but not look too uniform. Then I glued the titles on top just like the front page. Although they're not perfectly lined up, I kind of like the scrapbook feel of this part of the spread. Also, please excuse my glasses, they wanted to get in the picture. So then I added the same borders as I did the first page, and then numbered down memories, and although you couldn't see, I did color in the mushrooms at the bottom. Lastly, I'm just clipping around the tops of the corners where the paper was to clean out that spread. With that page done, let's move on to the next page, which is going to be my habit and mood trackers. So I'm starting out by drawing each individual box, and I actually messed up by drawing the boxes with cornered edges. As you can probably tell by now, I really wanted to keep a rounded edge kind of feel for the borders and boxes of my calendars, but unfortunately I forgot for this particular spread. It doesn't really matter though, it still looks fine on its own, so I'm just going to leave it. I haven't done this type of habit tracker in a while. I've actually been doing a lot of graphs, but I decided that this month I want to switch things up and do individual calendars, so hopefully this will also work for me. Of course I had to add my little mushroom doodles at the bottom of the spread, the same thing that I've been doing these past few pages, making it really scrappy look. And then I'm moving on to the spread that probably took the longest of this entire setup, which was my mood tracker. Again, sorry for the really dark pencil, but I really wanted to give a good outline of what I wanted my mushrooms to be. I'm drawing 30 mushrooms in different positions and different types all across the page, and the idea is that I'm going to color the tops of the mushrooms a different color depending on my mood that day. I haven't done this type of mood tracker since July, and so I'm really excited to try something new this month. Also, if you could tell, on the corner of my Bible tracker there is a little line out of place, so I'm just using my classic Uniball gel pen to just cover up that little mistake. If you guys like a video about how to cover mistakes in your bullet journal, please comment below because I've been thinking of making one. I'm using 4 colors for my key, and although I forgot to write them in, I will be writing in little faces at the bottom, so yellow is for the happy days all the way to green for the not so great days. And then I did color in all the stems of my mushrooms since I'm only going to be coloring the top for each day. And then of course for the bottom of the habit tracker I had to add some color there. And then I added a little drop shadow on the backs of every calendar just to kind of give it a little more oomph. So now it's time to move on to the titles, and as you can probably tell, it's just the same technique. And a good way to balance out the top of the spread that's not being covered by paper is just to add more butterflies. I find it's a great way to fill the space. Then on the mood tracker, I added a little border and went over all the letterings with my white gel pen trick that I used on the first 2 pages. I actually forgot it on my brain dump page, so I went and added those too. But after that, it's time for the last spread of this setup, which is going to be my first weekly spread. So usually in my setups I have a pretty structured weekly, and I'm still into doing my weeklies at the beginning of the week and just having them for the rest of those 7 days. But I have been looking into more interesting layouts that I've been finding on Pinterest, and so I'm doing little pictures in the corners, and that's where I was using my little drawings from before, and I can do them like layering just like I did with my lettering. Then before I fill out the rest of the days, I am adding a little notes box at the top and September, or just Sep in this case, and doing it in the same calligraphy font. All printables and stickers of this setup are on my Patreon account linked below, so if you want any of these pages or just stickers of some of the little doodles, then don't forget to check out my Patreon. So I'm just doodling little mushrooms, butterflies, and a little calendar in this brown pen. I'm honestly super happy with the way it writes. It's super smooth, and it lasted me for this entire setup with no problems at all, and so I would really recommend having Stapilo pens in your stationery kit. So I'm writing in all the days of the week in the same font that I have been for the entire month, and then I'm going to go in with that handwritten typewriter font for all the actual Monday through Sunday. After that, now it's time for the little details, so I'm just adding the same drop shadows that I've been really enjoying with that tan marker, and then of course the coloring. This setup, if anything, was super therapeutic because it was not hard to do any of the artwork, and so it was really calming to just color in all these mushrooms, and I'm really excited for the rest of the weeklies this month. Also, because the rest of the spread was looking kind of plain, I added a few butterflies just to give some pops of color to different parts of the spread. Also, just a little playlist in the corner, I put Dynamite BTS. Although the song actually came out a week ago, I did want to put it in there because I know I will still be jamming out but Dynamite in the next few weeks. So now I'm taking a washi tape set that I got off Amazon, I will be linked below, and I'm taking these 3 washi tapes that kind of match my theme. One is a brown grid, one has butterflies that are almost exactly in the same color scheme, and then another one is just green. So now I'm just going through the spreads, placing my washi tape where I want them, and it's usually located in the places that are not too full, like the places with less butterflies or no mushroom drawings. I'm probably making the process sound really methodical, but honestly, it's just so that I can make sure that the entire page is balanced. Anyway, so that's pretty much it for my setup today. Thank you so much for watching this video and for all your support on my account. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more. I'd also like to give a quick thank you to my patrons, to Erica, Deji, and Tammy, and also for Cecile, who I didn't get to put on here. Thank you guys so much. If you want to get 2 to 3 exclusive videos every month, stickers and printables of this setup, along with bonus content, don't forget to check out my Patreon, linked below. And that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Toodles!